In this video, I'd like to share with you the 5 things that happened in the stock market in this month, August of 2020. We have just went through the first week of August, and this is some of the news and the things that I'm looking out for that have happened in the past week or so. A quick pointer to take note: these are not a guide to everything that's going on in the stock market. So these are just some of the things that I believe will have an impact in the stock market moving forward. These are just 5 things that happened in the stock market so far in August 2020. Alright, so let's begin. So the first thing that we'll take a look at is the Apple stock split. Recently, Apple has announced that it's going to split some of its stocks, and this is one of the things to take note in the stock market. Apple has announced the 4-for-1 split. So what does this mean? So it means that if you own 5 shares before the split, right now the split hasn't taken place yet. So for example, if you are owning 5 shares right now, after the split, you will own 20 shares because 5 multiplied by 4, you will get 20 shares. And if the total value of the 5 shares that you are owning right now is around $2,000, and the value of the shares that you own after the split will still be $2,000. Right now, you own 5 shares, right? And after the split, you get 20 shares because 5 multiplied by 4, you get 20 shares. But at the same time, because your shares is split into 20 different shares, the value of each share also will be divided by 4. So the total value at the end will still be the same. So this is something to take note of. That recently, Apple has announced that it's going to do a 4-for-1 split. And there are a couple of reasons why Apple is doing this 4-for-1 split. So one of the reasons why is it wants to give retail investors a financial interest in its success. So what does it mean? So for example, right now, because Apple is around $400 for one stock, so this might price out some investors. And some investors, because of the steep price of Apple, they might not be able to afford the shares of Apple. So I know now there's fractional shares, things are slightly different, but Apple still wants to split its shares so that it becomes more affordable for retail investors. And the thinking goes that if there are more retail investors who are able to afford Apple shares, and then they will become a shareholder in Apple. And when they are a shareholder in Apple, they have more vested interest in the success of Apple, right? So for example, they're more inclined to buy Apple products since they are already a shareholder. So that's one of the possible reasons why Apple might be wanting to do this 4-for-1 stock split. So that's the first news to take note of in the stock market. The second news to take note of is the Fed's announcement. So what is this Fed's announcement? So the Fed has announced that it's planning to keep its interest rates unchanged moving forward. So they met up and they are deciding on the policies moving forward. So on Wednesday, which was 2 weeks ago to be exact, on July 29, they announced that they are keeping their rates unchanged. They are keeping the interest rates unchanged, and they are still committing or still continuing its quantitative easing program. And the reason why this is important, and I think I've mentioned it in the previous stock market news update, is because what the Fed does has a huge implication and huge impact on the stock market, right? So if you're a serious investor and trader in the stock market, you want to pay attention to what the Fed says and what the Fed does, right? Because their actions and their words can have a huge impact on the stock market, right? So the Fed will mainly affect the monetary policy in the US, and the monetary policy in the US will also affect the US stock market. And that's one of the main reasons why, as investors and traders in the stock market, you want to pay attention to what the Fed is saying and what the Fed is doing. That is the second news for the month, August 2020. The third news is unemployment benefits. So far we have talked about the Fed policies, right? So the Fed policies is mainly on the monetary policy side of things. And for the unemployment benefits, we are taking a look at the fiscal part of things. And another reason why we should pay close attention to unemployment benefits because it's a fiscal policy. And as we know right now, the monetary policy, while it still has its merits, it's increasingly not as effective as before because interest rates are already close to zero, and it's unlikely that the Fed will make interest rates go to negative, right? So once they hit the zero lower bound, the monetary policy on the Fed side is limited in its effectiveness. And that is why right now, fiscal policy is more important than ever. And unemployment benefits is one form of fiscal policy. And that is why we are taking a look at the unemployment benefits. So right now, the typical unemployed American is receiving about $930 a week from late March to late July. And that has now been cut to around $330 a week because the unemployment benefits have already stopped when July ended, right? So now we are in August. So it has been a week or so that this unemployment benefits has been cut. This extra difference in $600, right? So the $930 from before and the $330 currently, this $600 difference in it is a sticking point in the negotiations for extending the unemployment benefits, because Democrats want it to be extended till the end of the year, while Republicans think that the additional $600 a week will disincentivize people to work. So there's a major sticking point in negotiations, and moving forward, we want to pay attention to how this unemployment benefits is passed, because it not only affects the lives of Americans, and that also will affect the economy and also the stock market. So that's something we want to pay attention to. The next thing is the US jobless claims. Recently, the initial claims for unemployment insurance for the week ending on August 1st is 1.2 million, right? So that is the lowest level since the pandemic started. This is positive news because Wall Street was expecting 1.4 million claims, but right now we are only at 1.2 million. So it's a lower actual number compared to estimates, and this is positive news. However, on the other hand, this was the 20th consecutive week that claims are over 1 million. So on the one hand, it's not as severe as Wall Street estimated, but on the other, it's still negative because this is the 20th consecutive week that claims are over 1 million, and unemployment rate is now around 10% or more. So it's still not good news for the economy, but it shows that the economy is slowly recovering. So this recovery will be a long process, but right now we are seeing that the recovery is slowly taking place. That's the fourth thing that we want to take a look at for the stock market news for the first week of August. And the last one is the US tech ban of Chinese companies. In the previous episode for this US stock market news update, I talked about this US-China tension. Recently, we have seen that this has really escalated to another level. Trump has issued executive orders banning US transactions with WeChat and TikTok. So in this article by investing.com, we see that the headline says that Tencent sinks with Chinese stocks after the Trump's WeChat ban. The reason why Tencent stock has sunk is because WeChat is owned by Tencent. So with this ban on WeChat, it will definitely affect the company Tencent. The next thing that we want to take a look at is the president has actually issued an executive order and on WeChat and TikTok, and this ban will take effect in 45 days time. It will actually start on September 20th. So that's something to take note of. And the recent inclusion of the WeChat ban is more far-reaching than TikTok. Because for TikTok, the owner of TikTok is ByteDance, and ByteDance itself is not really huge company. But the inclusion of WeChat in these executive orders of banning these transactions with these companies have further or more potential implication, because Tencent owns multiple companies, or at least they are partnering multiple companies such as Activision, EA, Epic Games. So some of these games produced by these companies include Fortnite and League of Legends. While the TikTok ban was severe, the potential banning of WeChat has further implications, because it's not only banning WeChat. If it bans Tencent, it's going to have a lot of implications on other companies that Tencent is partnering in the US. That's the 5 things that happened in the stock market for the first week of August 2020. Hopefully you guys have learned something from today's video, and if you did, like the video because it will really help the algorithm and reach out to more people.